Welcome to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. My name is Stephanie Dingbaum. I am a mental health therapist, and I am so passionate about all things health and wellness, personal development, and empowering others to be their most authentic and best versions of themselves. Here at Therapeutic Intentions, we are all about having intentional and authentic conversations on whole body health, healing practices, mindset, and ways to uplevel your life so you can truly be the best version of you. If you are a woman, a mom, hope to someday be a mom, a healer, or just in a place where you want to start prioritizing yourself and your health, then this podcast is for you. I am so glad you're here. If you're ready, let's get to it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another collab episode. I'm so excited, you guys. I have Andrea Pitts here today, and so I'm just going to dive right in to how I know her. Andrea Pitts was the first integrative health practitioner that I ever worked with. So I learned about Andrea from a friend, a local friend, and she had been a huge support for me through the fertility journey, and just literally out of nowhere, she had just messaged me one day and was like, "Hey, have you heard of Andrea? You should reach out to her. I've worked with her. She's great." And I was like, I don't even know what integrative I didn't really know a ton about the integrative health world at that point in time. So on a whim, because again, at this point, I was willing to try anything. And that was at year 2. So that was 4 years ago, but I was willing to try anything. So I did. I reached out to Andrea. I felt like her prices were affordable, and I loved that her whole premise was like, let's get to the root cause of your issues. And then on top of that, like in her Instagram profile, it was like fertility support, natural hormone healing, like all the things that I felt like I needed at that point in time. So it was pretty much a no-brainer that I needed to work with her. So reached out to her, started working with her in August of that year, and worked with her for, I believe, a full year. I'm pretty sure, maybe on and off, but a full year. And it was, for the first time, I felt like we got to the root cause of my issues. And if you want to really hear this full story, go back. I did a 2-part episode on my fertility journey. So go back and listen to it if you're really interested. But for the first time, I felt like we had gotten to the root cause of a lot of my issues. I found out with Andrea that I needed to go gluten and dairy free, or that was recommended. And I've been gluten and dairy free ever since. And truly that changed my life. I felt like my gut health issues were practically gone after eliminating those things. Did some detoxes that were just transformational for my body. Like I stopped bloating after meals the first time, and it was like, I thought that was normal. I mean, we do because society normalizes it. But anyways, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here. It was just amazing working with her. Seriously amazing. So if you're on the fence about working with an integrative health practitioner, now this is your sign. This is your nudge from the universe to hop off the fence and reach out to one. So Andrea, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, because I could probably just keep sharing about how awesome you are. So you take it away, share your information, let listeners know who you are.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me today. So like she said, my name is Andrea. I am an integrative health practitioner. So what I primarily do is I work with women on rebalancing their hormones and helping them prepare their body to have a healthy, smooth pregnancy without the use of medications.
Like I said before, what really got me interested in you was knowing that we're not like doing quick Band-Aid fixes, right? Like that's what the whole integrative health world, I feel like, prides themselves in, right? Is like,
yes,
we get to the root cause of things. Yeah. So what first got you interested in this world? Like what led you to becoming a practitioner in the integrative health world?
It takes me back a little ways. So growing up, I was always someone, like, I had extreme, like, painful periods, and that kind of stuff. And I think that was something my mom dealt with. It was kind of just normalized. I remember even like in high school, like my parents literally having to come pick me up one day because I was on like the classroom floor, like in so much pain, thinking I was going to pass out. And it's just like society, the medical system makes you think that that's normal.
Yeah, they do.
And I
Yeah.
kind of just, I dealt with that, went to college. My people in my family started having health issues when I moved out. So I'm very like not blessed for their health issues, but fortunate that like my mom kind of dove into natural health before I ever did.
That's awesome.
Just a little bit of background. So my dad actually had a brain aneurysm back in his 20s, was on medications all while I was growing up. It was kind of one of those things where doctors just said, you're going to be on these meds for the rest of your life. And it is what it is. And my mom was kind of the person that's like, I don't. She started digging in because my dad wasn't the best version of himself when he was on these medications, just like a lot of people aren't, or you don't want to be
Yeah.
on these forever. So I really started to see the shift with my parents when they started making changes, but it wasn't until I would say I went to college that I really kind of went down my own health journey. So as soon as I graduated, went to school, I started having really bad chronic fatigue to the
Mm.
point where I would like fall asleep doing anything. I remember, so I went to school in the Dubuque area. My family lived 25 minutes away. I fell asleep driving on those 25 minutes at 2 in
Wow.
the afternoon. Like, you should not be falling asleep
Wow.
that quickly. I would fall asleep during my classes. My first conversation with my husband, now husband,
Yeah.
we were in
Wow.
like a work training seminar. And I just remember like we sat by each other and I was like, you may have to like nudge me under the table because I will probably fall asleep, like just warning you. So literally would fall asleep during anything. So that was like bad enough, but still not enough to like push me towards figuring out what was going on. It wasn't until after I graduated, started working full time, that I started dealing with skin rashes, and it flared up on my face, like around my mouth. And it was the most
Mm.
embarrassing thing I would say I've ever dealt with. It's one thing when you're dealing like with different health issues, but people can't like visibly see. It's easier to
Yeah.
hide what you're struggling with, but all of a sudden when it comes out on your face, and I was selling insurance at the time, so it was like my appearance, I was going into other people's houses talking to people, and I had this gross, crusty, oozing rash like all around my mouth. And I just remember going into the doctor finally. My family was never really one to run to the doctor for anything, but that finally like tipped me over the edge. I was like, nothing is working, nothing I'm doing is helping. Went to the doctor. I just remember they like gave me an antibiotic cream, told me it was going to be one of those things that I was going to have to deal with forever.
Oh
And it
man.
would flare up. It would go away for a week, like a couple of weeks. It would flare up again. Anyways, long story short, it's like it put so much stress on my body. I remember taking like 2 months off of work
Oh,
just because I was like so embarrassed. That finally was like the tipping point that caused me to really dive into, okay, like what is off in my body and is causing me to fall asleep all the time. Now all of a sudden having like all these rashes, the painful periods were still a big deal.
yeah.
So that was kind of like the tipping point. And then eventually I started taking some online courses, spent some time in Canada to
Oh,
really learn
cool.
about, yeah, like digging into the root cause of what was causing all these ailments, essentially. So,
Wow.
long
That's
story short,
cool.
that was like the beginning.
That's awesome. I didn't know about Canada. That's so neat. That's like where you got certified or trained?
I've done a
Or
couple different like certifications. So, that's not
Mhm.
like the integrative health practitioner portion of
Okay.
it, but I did a lot of like, it was like a life coaching program essentially, but it dug
Cool.
into a lot of like the mental emotional side of like how
Yes.
your thoughts and different, and obviously you're well versed in this, like past
Yeah.
traumas and stuff come up and affect different health issues in your body, essentially.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I want listeners to know I was kind of taken off guard in my first, like, I guess my intake with you
Mm-hmm.
because, like, I knew at that point, like, integrative health practitioners want to look at the whole body. I knew that. But, like, you guys, Andrea was like asking me about like my spiritual health, my past, like my childhood, how I was raised, past traumas. Like she was truly looking at the whole self. And because at this point in my life, no other practitioner would ever, they'll ask you about like your mental health, like, are you feeling anxious, depressed, things like that, because they have to now. But no practitioner would ever ask me about my childhood, my emotional, like none of that spiritual stuff. No, that would never get touched. I mean, truth be told, it's because you have like 5 minutes with the practitioners, but
Right.
that really threw me off when you were like, let's talk about your childhood. How were you raised? Did you have trauma? And it was just like, yes, I did. Oh, and we have time to talk about this. It just kind of surprised me, you know? So I just love that. I love that you got trained and learned all those different modalities of the body. I also want listeners to know, like, so you're like an independent health practitioner, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, you're not like tied with a clinic or anything like that,
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I want listeners to know you and I met virtually when we had our appointments. But what I would do between appointments was these labs that I would order. Can you kind of share a little bit about that with listeners? Like, what kind of labs do you order for your clients, and how you then use those lab results to kind of develop a treatment plan with them?
One thing I love about working with my clients, it's not a one size fits all program. So I have the ability to order a variety of different functional medicine lab tests. This is oftentimes very different from what you would do with like your traditional lab work in a doctor's office. The labs we do run vary by the client. Different clients need different things. Some common labs that we will run, though, are like a hair tissue mineral analysis test. So this really is able to dive into like your mineral levels. We can see if you have heavy metals in the body. And these are two things that really do affect fertility and having a good pregnancy postpartum journey too. We'll look at like your thyroid levels, cortisol levels. I can do things like food sensitivity testing. And then one thing I absolutely love, it's called an organic acids test. So that really takes a deep dive into what is going on in the gut, because oftentimes when we are dealing with hormonal issues, autoimmune, really any kind of symptom coming out in the body, there's some kind of imbalance going on in our gut. So rather than just guessing or throwing, whether it's like Tums or antacids and that kind of stuff at it, it allows us to really figure out, okay, what is going on and what do we need to do to help rebalance that to eliminate your symptoms.
I think I did both of those. I don't know.
I
It's been
know.
so
I was
long
going to say, I know
now.
you did the hair tissue mineral analysis.
Yeah.
We did the organic acids, and I think there might have been.
And we did like an iodine one, and
That
I don't
sounds
know. I
right.
feel like we
Yeah, a
did
few
at
other
least
ones.
also you were really your experience or my experience with you really opened up the door. Like I guess I knew everything was connected in the body, but when you really connected my gut health to my autoimmune condition, it was like that opened a whole nother door. I feel like for me, because I was like, what? Like this all stems from my gut? Like I don't know. I didn't know any of that, and it just opened an entire world for me. Like the tinctures and the supplements that I was all on, and then not having side effects from those like I was previously with fertility medications. It just like the answers I got from you and how I felt on the supplements I was taking was just a game changer for me. Like I at that point knew I could never go backwards then, because
Right,
how often do you truly take a medication and not have a side effect, you know?
right. And that's
Yeah.
what it's like. I always you hear people say it's like medications come with like a side benefit and then
Mm-hmm.
a whole long list of side effects. And that's it's like once you get a little bit, like you just said, like once you get a little bit of a taste of like, okay, this is how good my body can feel, like you just don't unsee it or there's no going
Yes.
backwards. And like I'm a firm believer that like we need our medical system, like they are great in
Agreed.
emergency situations or like acute,
Yeah.
like they have a time and a place, but when it comes to actually getting your body healthy, healing
Mm-hmm.
yourself, like sadly that's not where they thrive in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Just because like you said, it's like with medications and stuff, you know that you're set up to be on those forever.
Yeah.
And then like it's just a domino effect. So if we can avoid those things and get you feeling good, it just makes life easier all around.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I feel the exact same way. Like I truly, for somebody who's needed the local ER, I'm grateful that we have them. I do think Western medicine does serve a purpose in that way. I mean, when I broke my neck, it was like, thank God we had somebody good
Yes.
locally that I could get rushed to. But unfortunately, in the other areas of my life, it just really hasn't helped. And I think that's where integrative health really shines. And again, like after doing that detox and realizing these things that have always been like normalized in my life aren't necessarily like they don't have to be considered normal. Like
Right.
I just think other people need to hear that. I just feel like, especially in these rural parts of the country, that is not understood nearly as much as it is like in California and like places along the coast. Like I just don't think it's as normal around here. I think people think, oh, these symptoms are like we all have them. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way though. You know?
Right. Yeah, I would
Yeah,
totally agree with that. I feel like people are not as exposed to like that there are other options. We just being
yeah,
in a rural community, like you said, you don't have as many of those options. And I feel like we're fortunate because in our area there are a lot of those things popping up, which I
right.
absolutely love to see. But
Yeah, I
I
that's a good
totally
point.
agree with you.
Well, the good thing about integrative health practitioners though is you're not bound to your state, right? Like you're living in Illinois.
I'm
I'm
actually in
living
Iowa
in
now.
Oh, you are?
I
Oh,
moved.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
you were in Illinois.
I
And
was.
so we were able to meet virtually. And honestly, like some people might not like that initially because you're used to seeing your doctor face to face, but I loved it because I don't know, I didn't feel like I was taking up more of your time. Like, I don't know. And I didn't have to drive to see you. Like, I just loved it. And so that's another good thing. Like, if you want to get with an integrative health practitioner, you don't necessarily have to search solely in the state of Iowa if you're living in Iowa.
Right.
I think that's kind of cool. So you have a daughter, correct?
Yes.
How old
Yeah,
is she now?
she will be 3 in October.
That's
So
crazy because she
yeah,
was
a
a
little
baby when
over
I was
two and a
working with
half.
you.
Yeah,
Okay,
she's
okay,
getting so
awesome.
big. She's entertaining to say the least.
I bet I can imagine. And then you're also pregnant with baby number two.
I am. I'm like, by the time this episode airs, baby number two could be here. So within,
Awesome.
I am due within the month. So
That
very
is
excited.
exciting. Thank you for coming on here in your last month of pregnancy. I cannot imagine how you must feel
We're
right
doing
now.
good. We're doing good. We're hanging in there.
Well, I appreciate it. So I'm just curious with your own fertility journeys and your current pregnancy journey, how has your work as an integrative health practitioner benefited or impacted your own journey with fertility?
So I feel like being able to prepare my body, learn about natural health has made my pregnancy so much easier and just more relaxed. In this day and age, I feel like when so many women get pregnant, you typically go into the major medical system and it's very fear based.
Mm,
And just like we had talked before, it's like a lot of times when we go to see a doctor, whether it is for pregnancy, it's certain symptoms, like people don't feel heard or seen. And I have so many pregnant moms reaching out to me, and it's like, I talked to my doctor about X, Y, and Z, like they didn't agree with me. And I feel strongly about this, but my doctor is telling me the other thing. And it's by doing this research and learning and feeling confident in all of this knowledge before going into pregnancy, it made me feel very confident that, like, even if I am sitting with a doctor, whoever it might be, in my choices, like,
mm,
it's helped me feel at peace. Not only has it made my pregnancy, I would say, easier, like we talked about before, like you said, with the bloating and all these things that we think
yeah.
are common and normal. There's so many things with pregnancy that women view as common and normal. And it's like, you don't have to be miserable. Like, you don't have to get super swollen and gain all this weight. And like with preeclampsia, it's like the more we can prepare our body before ever going into these situations, the easier it's going to be, the less fear based it needs to be,
Mm,
and just the confidence you have. Um,
I
like,
love
I
that.
know throughout my first pregnancy, like me and my husband kind of disagree. So I really wanted a midwife right away. I
Absolutely.
couldn't really find one in the area at the time. Living in Illinois, I know you couldn't be licensed as a midwife to do a home birth. So I ended up in an OB's office. At the beginning of my pregnancy, I saw an OB from, well, the beginning to like, I think it was around 29 weeks before I ended up finding a midwife. And it was just very interested. Like I said, I felt very fortunate. I did a lot of research before ever getting pregnant, felt confident in my choices, but I feel like so many women get almost taken advantage of when they go through pregnancy or not even informed.
Right. Like
And
they're
then
naive to an extent if it's their first
exactly.
season.
And it's like you go into these prenatal appointments and you get 5 to 10 minutes with a doctor. And a lot of times it's like if you question what they're saying, like they don't even like they won't
They
even like
do.
dig into the topic with it, or
Yeah.
they'll fight you on it because a
Hmm.
lot of things that are considered to be common or normal, like in prenatal visits, I personally chose to decline. And I just
Hmm.
remember like a doctor has the way of doing things and like they don't like that.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. You're exactly
so
right.
one of the biggest things is just like helping women feel supported so they
Hmm.
don't have birth trauma essentially too,
Yes.
because that
Yes.
I feel like very fortunate. So I remember going into my 28-week appointment, I declined the glucose drink and I chose
Hmm.
to just monitor at home.
Yep.
And my doctor didn't like that. There was another topic that I had declined. Um,
Mm.
and I just remember coming home to my husband and telling him, like, I just knowing, like, when you're pregnant, especially, like, you really need to trust your intuition, like, did not feel
Yes.
comfortable delivering in that space. Like, I just knew if I was going to go into a hospital that I would be like tense and on guard. Like, it's just not a
Mhm.
place, like I said, that I feel safe. Like, great for emergencies, but when you're
Yeah.
pregnant, like, you're not sick. Like, your body is designed to do this. So, as
Hmm.
long as you have a healthy pregnancy, it's like, where can I give birth in an environment where I feel comfortable and things are going to be more likely to go right, essentially.
Yep.
And that's just like trusting my gut. I ended up switching over to a midwife. I think it was right around that 29, 30 week mark. And I feel so fortunate that I was able to have such a positive birth experience because so many times now, when you talk to women, if you ask them about their birth story, like they are traumatized. And then that carries over into postpartum, it carries over
Yeah.
just
Yes.
everything and like health issues and then going into your next pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um,
For real. And I totally agree with you. I guess in one way, I feel like it's a blessing that we've had to wait 6 years because like I've learned so much about the difference between functional medicine, holistic practices, and the Western medicine world. And I feel like I'm so much more informed now that I feel like I'm going to be more like you were. Like I'm going to advocate for what I feel my body,
right.
what's best for my body, which I know my body and I also am very intuitive. So I'm going to make decisions that feel aligned for me. But I agree. Like I feel like doctors do sometimes get defensive against that because that's just what they were taught, right? It's not I'm not arguing against them personally. I'm just arguing against like the Western way of doing things. And it
Yes.
doesn't always feel aligned with what I would want for bringing a baby into this world. And I feel like 50% of my friends have had traumatic birth experiences. And same with a few clients. Like I truly feel like it's the toss of a coin. Like some have had great experiences and some have not. And that's
Right.
unfortunate because you're bringing a soul into this world. That shouldn't be that way.
Now, when it's like so much of your birth experience, not only will, like we said, influence like your postpartum health, but like the bond with the baby. And it's
Yeah,
just, it's interesting to watch. So, like my husband, when we got together, like we thought very differently.
sure.
And it's been crazy to just like watch his opinion like totally transform because when I first mentioned with our first pregnancy that I wanted to have a home birth, we ended up in like an unattached birth center because a home birth wasn't the option at the time. But
Oh.
he was super skeptical. And now this pregnancy is like, yep, wouldn't do it any other way. And all of a sudden, like
Oh.
when his friends are getting pregnant, like the other day, he was like, you guys should really consider a home birth. And I'm like,
Oh,
these are words that like I never thought would come out of his mouth. But it was at the beginning, like the first time I was pregnant, it's that fear base of like, oh my God, what if something goes wrong? Like,
mm-hmm.
most people don't realize that like statistically, things are more likely to go wrong because of the cascade of interventions that happen in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's been cool to like, yeah, just watch him transform and now just how comfortable he feels with the idea of having a home birth and just
Love it.
going more of the natural route compared to during our first pregnancy.
That's amazing. Quick question. Have you gotten into hypnobirthing at all?
I did. So I used Hypnobaby or like
Yeah,
hypnobirthing
hypnobaby.
with my first
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I always say like having
Cool.
a unmedicated natural birth was definitely like the most challenging thing I did. Like I won't say it was not easy, but it was
Sure,
the
sure.
most like phenomenal experience. Like the moment that that baby gets laid on your chest, like it all just washes away and it is literally the biggest like oxytocin high. And
Oh,
I feel like so many women don't get to have that experience
mm-hmm.
when you have like when you're all medicated. And I
Mm-hmm.
have one person in my life that her birth story, she's like, I don't even remember hardly the first day in the hospital. She ended up just kind of like the classic cascade of interventions. It's like you get Pitocin, labor speeds up really intensely, gets an
Mm-hmm.
epidural because it's so painful, slows it down. That can cause baby's heart rate to decrease. Ended up
Yeah.
in emergency C-section. And just like watching her experience and hear her talking about that, honestly, like breaks my heart and makes me just want more women to know like there are other, like your birth does not have to be traumatic. Like it is supposed to
Right.
be this beautiful experience. And yeah, giving birth with no pain medication, I'm not gonna, like, some
Yeah.
people can say they can do it and it's pain free. That was not the case for me. I think I pushed
Gotcha.
for like 4 hours, but
Oh, wow.
I
Wow.
mean, I'm pregnant now and I'm
Right.
doing it all over again. So
Good. That's
it was,
exciting.
yeah, it's just one of those things that I'm like, every mom should get to have that feeling because it is like
Yeah.
literally the biggest high ever.
Yeah. I just recently got introduced to hypnobirthing and I'm like, yep, I'm gonna do that. That's what I want to experience. That, you talk about fear based and pain is like there's so much fear with that, but
Yes,
that's what makes the pain more painful.
painful.
But
Yeah.
I mean, truly. And so I'm just so intrigued. Like I'm not pregnant, but I want to dig into that because I think that whole idea just sounds amazing.
And it is like you just talked about like the fear and I mean just how like emotions are connected to different things. And I just remember during my labor, it was like my daughter did not want to come out. And that was like one of the questions I remember my midwife asking. She's like, Andrea, what are you afraid of? And I just
Oh,
remember thinking
wow.
like, I'm afraid to be a mom. Like,
Wow.
and it's like
Yeah.
you don't think about like really didn't think about that beforehand. And just all the stuff that comes up during birth is it's fascinating. And it's like as soon as I got that off my chest, it was like all of a sudden she came out and it was just
Wow.
it's just crazy how, like you said, just being in a different environment. Because I'm like, I'm sure if I was in the hospital, like those are questions that would have never gotten asked and I
I
probably would
agree.
have ended up with a C-section. So
Yeah, that made me immediately think
yeah.
like, okay, so it was a mental block or emotional
Yes.
block. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I just find the whole hypnobirthing thing fascinates me. I'm definitely intrigued by it. So good to know another person that has done that.
Have you ever taken a medication that didn't come with a side effect or two? Yeah, me neither. In year 2 of my fertility journey, I got fed up with the medications that were being recommended for me because they all seemed to come with their fair share of side effects on both my physical and mental health. I then decided to take my health into my own hands and I set up an intake with an integrative health practitioner. I wanted someone who could help me get to the underlying root cause of everything. I refused to accept the diagnosis of infertility because I knew there was something more going on than what the Western medicine practitioners were catching. Switching my healthcare to the integrative health world was actually the best decision I ever made in the 6 years that we've been going through our own fertility journey. I finally felt I had more control over my health choices, and I felt like I was actually being listened to and heard more. The integrative health world then opened my eyes to Earthly Wellness, which is a company that believes individuals should be empowered to make their own informed health choices. Earthly Wellness is such an amazing company in my mind. They produce herbal remedies and body care products that support health naturally. This meant finally no side effects. Products with actual clean, non-toxic ingredients that won't harm my body or cause other symptoms to flare up. Products that have ingredients in them that I actually recognize and I can pronounce too. At first, I just tried their Good Night Lotion and Immune Aid vitamin C capsules. Then I eventually got into using 1 or 2 of their tinctures that they offer as well. I have had a good experience with literally every single product that I've ever tried from Earthly. They make me feel great, and they've been extremely beneficial for me through this fertility journey. I'm not the only person that speaks highly of Earthly either. Listen to these testimonials from other individuals who have seen success from using Earthly's products. One says, "My sleep has improved a ton since using the gut health oil from Earthly. I started using it at the beginning of April, and almost 2 months later, my sleep has sustained." Another one says, "My menstrual cycle has been off for years, and the only supplement I've added has been the gut health oil. And since starting that, my menstrual cycle has been more regular." Amazing testimonies, you guys. If you're looking for a natural, non-toxic product that can benefit both your physical and your mental health, look no further, because Earthly is a trusted company that can truly support your health needs. Earthly has a variety of products for all ages as well. Besides body care products and herbal remedies, they also carry vitamins, minerals, cleaning products, baby products, and skincare products. It's truly a one-stop shop. So, if you're looking for clean and safe products to use around the home, on yourself, as well as for your kids, go to the link in my show notes and see what Earthly has to offer. I wouldn't be recommending a company that I myself didn't strongly support and believe in personally. Another great benefit about Earthly is their prices are affordable as well. People often complain that the downside of seeing an integrative health practitioner is that you have to pay for those services out of pocket. My pushback to that is you could be spending that money on Western medicine procedures, medication, more medication to fix the side effects from the initial medication, doctor's visits, etc. You have to look at your health like it's an investment. And all of these things are a part of that investment. So you're spending less in the long run, really. Another amazing benefit of ordering through Earthly is that all of their products are completely clean and non-toxic, which means they have absolutely no parabens, no phthalates, no fragrance, no preservatives, no allergens such as corn, soy, gluten, dairy, or nuts, no junk at all, you guys. And if you are like me and you're trying to rid your home of toxic products, then Earthly is your go-to place to shop. In today's world, our society normalizes living with certain symptoms, and I just think it's ridiculous. It does not have to be normal to deal with overactive thyroids. It doesn't have to be normal to deal with unbalanced hormones. It doesn't have to be normal to have heavy and painful periods. It doesn't have to be normal to deal with daily bloating. These are all symptoms, and there is an underlying root cause to all of it. Earthly has products to support not only those symptoms, but also the root cause of it all. Be honest, wouldn't you love to kick 1 or 2 symptoms that you deal with daily? As a mental health therapist in a small rural county in eastern Iowa, I recommend Earthly products constantly to clients. I always suggest trying something holistic before using medication or something that the body can become addicted to. That way you don't have to worry about experiencing any side effects as a result of using that product. If what you're hearing resonates with you and you want to try out an Earthly product for yourself, go into my show notes for today's podcast episode. I will have my affiliate marketing link in the notes for you. Also, for a limited time, if you're a first-time user of Earthly products, you can get a discount using code all caps choose natural to get a 10% discount off your order. Again, the code is choose natural in all caps. If you are a returning customer of Earthly's and you would also like a discount, I'm offering for a limited time only the code comeback to also get a 10% discount off your order. Again, that code in all caps is comeback, COMEBACK. Improve your sleep today, you guys, and feel better mentally, physically, and emotionally. Seriously, consider making Earthly Wellness a part of your health journey today. All links will be in my show notes for today's episode.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, I know we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but loved every minute of it. One thing I do want to mention that I want to make sure listeners understand, because this was something I really had to wrap my head around with going into the integrative health world as a part of my fertility journey, is I had to be okay with the fact that this meant it was not going to be a quick fix. You know, when we talk about like the supplements that you are going to take or the lifestyle changes you may have to make, as a client, you have to be okay with the fact that whatever it is you're trying to tackle may not change overnight. Like I had to literally mentally be okay with the fact that, okay, I mean, I think at one point you even told me like, okay, I mean, it could take 6 months to a year or more. Like it could take 2 years to see hormones, you know, change the way we need them to. Can you talk a little bit to that just so our listeners understand, I guess, the why behind that?
Yeah. So one thing I want women to understand, like if you are having painful periods, any kind of hormone imbalances, digestive issues, even if you're not thinking about getting pregnant now, like now is the time to start. Because like you said, it's like so many women that I do encounter, it's like, you know, I've tried everything. Now I'm to the point of IVF and I really don't want to have to go that route. So then you're already kind of like at your wit's end. And it's like, I don't want to wait that long to rebalance my body. So if you're having symptoms, I always say now is the time to start, even if you don't want to get pregnant for a few years. That way, when you are ready to get pregnant, like you can do that in a less, you can just be relaxed and let things happen. And the reason being is a lot of times, whether we have gut imbalances, it's different types of toxicities, it can take a long time to essentially rid that out of your body. And you can't just go in. I wish we could go in like a month's time, rid out all the toxins, rebalance all the deficiencies, but that's not the case. You know, it's like a lot of times we have to change things slowly for people to actually keep these new habits or like make them part of their lifestyle. Because when we try to do things too quick, then it's like all of a sudden we're overwhelmed and things go out the window. And you know, some of the protocols and supplements, like it does just take time. And like, for example, let's say magnesium, that's like a popular mineral everybody's familiar with. And when we're under stress, like our body burns through it like crazy. It can take a year or two just to replenish those levels, especially when you're still like, if you have that outside stressor and if you are stressed about, okay, when am I going to get pregnant? How is this going to happen? Like that stress is constantly coming in. So as much as we wish like everything could just flip overnight, there's so many pieces to the puzzle. Like we had talked about, not even just, oh, you need to take this supplement or change this food, but it's like healing the mental, emotional side of things can also play such a huge role, because you could be eating all the right foods, exercising perfect, but if there is like emotional trauma or something, like I said, going on currently in your life that is causing you a lot of stress, that essentially can cancel out, you know, all the good the food and the supplements might be doing. So there's just so many moving pieces and everybody is different,
Right.
that it's not a one size fits all approach, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't even think to hit on like the environmental toxins. I think you mentioned that. And that was like a whole new world to me too, because I honestly had no idea that these chemicals in these everyday products that I'm using could negatively impact my hormones. Like that, gosh, it was I felt like I was awakened through this whole journey. Like that was just mind blowing to me. And at the time you had told me like, just slowly start to get rid of these things. Like don't overwhelm yourself because that causes stress and that's not
Hmm.
helpful. And I did, I slowly just started doing swap outs, started following these like natural mamas on Instagram that would give suggestions for swap outs. And I feel like I texted you all the time, like, what's a good swap for this? And
Yeah.
all of that, which was super helpful. And using that I think it's the EWG app where you can like
Yes.
look up healthy products or healthy swap products or whatever. Like that was so helpful. And that was in year 2. And now 4 years later, I would say all except for my hairspray, all of my bathroom products are clean, non-toxic products. That's huge
You're
for me
doing
because
phenomenal. You're
that
doing
took me a
phenomenal.
while. And then the kitchen, I would say, except for our pots, everything that I use as far as products, and we got rid of plastics, everything's non-toxic and clean.
That's
Like that
awesome.
was a journey. That took probably, it did take 4 years to get there.
Yes.
And like I said, we haven't even swapped out the pots yet. And that's a big one. Like that's a
Right. Right.
huge toxicity. So that's a big part of the journey too, is truly just trying to live a clean, non-toxic life. And nobody can do it 100%. I mean, it's not, I truly believe it's not worth stressing yourself out over trying to live that way. But man, I just love these clean products way better, honestly. So that was a game changer for me too. And I'm so glad you opened my eyes to that whole like environmental toxins was just not even on my radar before I met you. So yeah, I just think there's so much about this that people need to hear about. So that was fascinating to me. And I know you support women who are trying to conceive, who are already pregnant and postpartum, correct? You see all three of those
Yes.
like
Yep.
populations, I guess. Um, and I know treatment plans look and feel different for everybody. You run labs for all of them, and that kind of determines like what the form of treatment would be or what you would suggest for them. But I want to just focus on specifically for those women who are going through postpartum because this, I don't know if it's because I'm seeing it on Instagram a lot lately or I have friends who have gone through it, but I feel like postpartum, well, first of all, I feel like it's normalized to have postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression in our world, and that absolutely does not need to be normal. It shouldn't be normal. But can you talk to that a little bit about how you support women going through the postpartum journey?
Yeah. And I was going to say, as I like mentally prepare for this right now, because that's about to be my life in a few weeks, hopefully less than a few
Yeah.
weeks. One of the biggest things, kind of like we mentioned before, I feel like with the postpartum depression, a
Mm.
lot of that has to do with the type of birth you have. Um,
Wow.
so like the more, like I said, you can dive into that before ever going into labor. It's like making
Mhm.
sure you get that positive birth experience. And like everybody says, like, why do I look into that? You can't control how your birth goes. No, but you can become aware of like what you want. These are things that can go wrong. Like, let's say if something does go wrong, it's like, you made the best choice then for you and your baby. So it's not going to be as traumatic rather than all of a sudden you gave birth and you feel like you were pushed into these interventions and you don't understand why. So it's like getting an understanding, trying to have that positive birth experience, I feel like is just huge
Yeah.
for postpartum depression. But also, too, it's like your nourishment, making sure, like, one of the things it's like I help women, like, let's prep your freezer. Like, let's get food in the freezer to make sure you are getting in the nourishment your body needs postpartum. That's like the next thing on my to do list is to stock my freezer. Because so many women, like, it's like if you don't prepare, then all of a sudden you're ordering out, you're eating junk food. Pregnancy is so depleting on the body that
Yeah.
we need to be replenishing. And if you don't, all of a sudden you've got all these deficiencies going on that are leading to, more of the mood swings, the anxiety. Plus, obviously, you have a newborn, sleep isn't going to be perfect. So
Right.
it's like almost overplenishing the body. So making sure you have, whether it's certain types of supplements, different tools kind of in your tool chest and having them on hand. Um, And then another big thing that I feel like doesn't go talk or get talked about enough is making sure you have like a support system in place and being okay with someone doing your laundry or someone cleaning your kitchen and doing things for you for a little bit, because like your primary concern is taking care of this new little life. Um, Everything else can wait. And
Yeah.
it's just important, whether that's like a postpartum doula, it's you have maybe a high schooler, a babysitter, a mom, sister, like whatever that might look like, having that support to make sure that you can care for yourself too. And also not trying to overdo it. I feel like society has like this opinion like, oh, you have a baby, you need to be outgoing and doing things within like a week's time. And it's like, no, like your body needs to rest. I know one of the things that I want to try to do better with this time, because with my first one, I feel like I tried to do too much too quick still. But it's like taking that time. They say like 5 days in bed, 5 days near bed, and then like
Yes.
5 days
Yes.
around the house, like not pushing your body. Like your body needs time to heal. It needs time to bond with the baby. And it's the more you just kind of like do that and listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, I feel like the more positive experience that you'll have. I know with my daughter, it's like a lot of, which to each their own, like whatever works for you, but it's like trusting your intuition that what you're doing is right. If someone tells you to schedule a bunch of things and do X, Y, and Z, and you feel totally uncomfortable with that, then flip what you're doing. Like, I just
Right.
always feel like trusting your intuition plays such a big role in how your postpartum experience goes.
Absolutely.
And just knowing that even if it's like against the grain or different from what so-and-so did, like if it works for you, awesome, roll with it.
I love this. You're speaking my language. I feel like it's just normal. Like when someone has a baby, like you go, if you're really close, you go and visit them within the week. And I feel like I'm an outlier because, again, I know I haven't experienced this yet. So I may end up feeling completely different when my time comes. But like, I don't think I would want people to come over in that first week. Like, is that
Yes.
weird? I don't know. Like, I've heard what you said about the 5 days in bed thing. And the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what I want. Like, I know everyone wants to come and see the baby, but like, in my opinion, like, I would just want like my close family to come. And I just feel like everybody else could wait because
Yes.
it's so important for that bonding for both the mother and the father, honestly. And I don't know, like I just, in general, I wouldn't want to pass the newborn around to like 15 or 20 different people within a week's time either, you know?
Yes. No, I
So
totally agree with that.
that really resonates with me. I'm glad to hear somebody else say that because that just really speaks to me. That's good to hear. I love that. Do you feel like you did that with your first? The 5 days in bed thing?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I figured you live and you
Not
learn.
as good as, but that was like one of the things I noticed too with like having a natural birth was I was shocked actually how good my body felt. Like I remember we had
Awesome.
her at 2:15 in the morning. We were home by 8 in the morning and we had an hour drive, and
Mm.
like that was one of the hardest things. It was like I felt really good, but yet still should have given my body a little more
Sure.
rest time. So,
Sure.
and I've
Makes
always had
sense.
that personality that it's like I feel like I need to be doing something,
Me
which
too.
you are doing something,
Right.
but
Your
I
body
just
and resting.
I'm like my body will, like the bleeding, all that kind of stuff that goes along
Mm.
with it. I'm like, okay, it's okay to rest and just be. I think it's going to be a little more challenging having a baby in the summer months rather than my daughter was
Yeah.
born in the fall when it's more like cuddle, relax weather. So
Yeah. Yeah.
forcing myself to kind of take July as like a rest time because
Love
we do have
it.
a lot like going on. So I'm like, rest while I can so I'll
Yeah.
feel better down
Love
the
it.
road. And it's, you hear women talk about, I can't remember the book. I can't remember the book off the top of my head, but they say like the first 40 days after pregnancy, how you care for your body, how you're treated can play a huge role in like your health down the road. So
Mm.
the less supported you
Fascinating.
are, the more like anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. It can play a huge role in like autoimmune, different types of cancers and all that kind of stuff. So
That's
just knowing like
fascinating.
it's okay to take a break and it's a season. Like,
Yeah. I will say, in regards to your daughter, um, you guys, the amount of experiences you and your husband have given her in her early stages of life has just been like, wow, like that
thank
is
you.
amazing. She has gotten some really amazing travel experiences, and oh, I just love that for her. Like,
Thank you.
I
I
just
do
think
too.
you guys
It's
have
fun
really
to watch
blessed
her light
her.
up.
I
Thank you.
bet. Yeah. Yeah. She truly, if you guys follow Andrea on Instagram, you'll know, understand this, but I think she's truly a mini version of you. Like, she's just so cute. And yeah, she looks just like you, I feel like.
Thank you. Because I'm like, everybody keeps saying the older she gets, the more she looks like my husband. So
Oh, well, I haven't met him, so I'm biased. I've
yeah,
only seen pictures.
it's got my skin tone and hair color. So we've got that going for
For
me.
sure, for sure. But I just, even like early on when I first met you, it was like you were taking her out on walks, on trails, and like you were getting her that natural sunlight that she needed. It was beautiful to see that. I mean, I know a
Thank
lot of
you.
moms do that, but, and I honestly think part of it's like where you lived at the time. Like it was just so beautiful in that area. You had a lot
Yes.
of great opportunities for getting her out in nature. So, for listeners who want to dive into the integrative health world, what would you suggest?
One, I would say don't hesitate to reach out to a practitioner just because, like, I think of myself and I tried to figure things out on my own for so long and I wasted a lot of time and money, like, not doing the right things and just trying to put the of the puzzle together when it's like, okay, I could have spent money on these labs, although it is an investment. It's like if
Yeah.
you can figure out what's going exactly what is causing your imbalances and then, make lifestyle changes accordingly, it's going to save you a lot of time, money, and stress in the long run. And then an easy thing to do too is like we talked about, it's how can I start cleaning up my environment? And that like will look different for everyone. It might, some people are like, oh, should I clean out swap out my makeup products? I think of like
Mm,
someone like myself, I don't wear makeup often. So that wouldn't be like top priority, but
right.
cleaning products, like I'm constantly cleaning my house or, one of the easiest things you could do is like eliminate fragrance. If you're having
Yes.
hormonal issues, whether that's like, I think of Febreze, any kind of air fresheners or laundry detergents, it's like, get rid of the fragrance, just say goodbye to it. That's one of the simplest changes you could make.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say don't hesitate to reach out to someone who has kind of walked in your footsteps and is already, can give you a shortcut to those results you want. And then, um, like I said, just cleaning up your environment and slowly starting to make those changes because that's something, just like you mentioned, it's like, no, we can't, most of us can't flip all of our products in our house overnight. But
Gosh, no,
as soon
no.
as you start to run out of things, it's like making a conscious choice to swap those things out. And if you do want to have a baby down the road, even if you're like, it's not even on your thought process, but you are having hormonal issues or whatever that like might look like for you, start working on it now. So when you do want to have a baby, that can be a smooth, stress-free process for you.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, that's a great thought, honestly. Like for us, we were a few months ago, we had decided to go shopping for a new bed. And that was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, the next time we get a new bed, I'm getting clean, non toxic sheets. Like that was my
Yes.
next big ticket item that I wanted to swap out. And so got the new bed, got clean, non toxic sheets. It was like, this is a game changer. And they are soft AF. Like,
You got the cozy earth,
seriously.
right? Yeah, I
Yes.
love
Oh my
them.
gosh.
I love
Cozy
them.
Earth is my favorite. Yes.
Yes.
Love it. That's really good to know. And it honestly, I do want to just add, like, it doesn't matter if you're trying to get pregnant and you want to work with an integrative health practitioner. It doesn't matter if you're postpartum or if you're done having kids, or maybe you're premenopausal and you're worried, like maybe you're dealing with all these, I mean, premenopausal symptoms are also a big area in
Yes.
the integrative health world, but it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey as a woman. Working with an integrative health practitioner can benefit you. It's not just for the fertility world. I mean, I feel like we've made that known, but I just definitely want to hit on that because hormones affect you in all stages of life. And some of those symptoms that are normalized for menopause even is similar to the fertility journey. Like they don't have to be normal, you know? And
Yes.
so it doesn't matter how old you are if you're listening to this and you're intrigued by this. I feel like most integrative health practitioners offer like free, like I offer like free 15-minute consultations as a therapist. Do you guys do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anytime before I work with someone, now I'll get on a video call and we'll have a conversation
Okay.
and make sure that we are a good fit to work together. One other
Perfect.
dynamic I was going to add to what we were just talking about, like if you're a mom and you have a daughter who is having extremely painful periods or really bad acne, maybe you've taken them to the gynecologist and they just are recommending birth control. That's another, like,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
hesitate to reach out for your daughter, because if you can help her fix whatever is going on now, like, you'll just save her a lot of stress in
Yeah.
her down the
Yes.
road.
Yep. Preach. I agree. I actually had a client that I had recommended to the mom that she get her hormones tested prior to putting her on birth control. And I
Yes.
was completely transparent, and I'm not typically like this honest with a client,
Hmm.
but I was this time. And I was like, I wish anybody would have told me as a teenager to get my hormones tested before trying birth control or before getting on birth control, because that probably would have been a game changer for me. I don't think
Yes.
our parents in the 90s were informed as much about
Hmm.
this world, the integrative health world. And I feel like because of my journey, like that's part of my calling. Like I just want people to know, yeah, if you have a teenage daughter who's got painful periods or is sexually active and wants to be on birth control or whatever the reason is, get the hormones looked at first. And typically hospitals, Western medicine clinics won't do that because insurance won't always cover it. So find an integrative health clinic or an integrative health practitioner. I do recommend doing those 15-minute like discovery calls or consultation calls with them because they're free, but also because I think you should shop around. Like I
Hmm.
didn't with Andrea. Andrea just happened to be a great fit for me though, so I was lucky. But you got to find one that's a good fit for you. It's like with any practitioner. Like do those free calls with them because I mean, there's no hard feelings. If they're not a good fit, they're not a good fit. Nobody wants to waste their time or money or energy with somebody that you're not going to jive with. So
Right.
take advantage of those. You can do them virtually over the phone, I imagine. Whatever. Take advantage of that. Find one that's a good fit for you. And it doesn't have to just be in your state. I mean, literally, like go on Instagram, search for integrative health practitioners. They're all over. That's what I would suggest. Is that fair to say, Andrea?
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because
Okay.
you're going to see the best results when you find the person that you pair up with, that you jive with, like you said. So, no, I think that's great
Absolutely.
advice.
Awesome. Okay. Well, as we start to wrap things up here, any future goals for you, whether it be personally or professionally, like as a integrative health practitioner, any like future career goals for yourself or personally in your life?
Learning how to adapt from one child to two is my biggest goal
Yeah,
right
that'll be
now. But no, down the road, after going through my second pregnancy, and having this experience again, I love the idea of getting more into birth work and, um, just like the postpartum, like teaching moms, like, how do I get that positive birth experience that we talked about? And how do I set my baby up for success, um, as soon as they're born, so they can, avoid unnecessary interventions and things like eczema, colic,
Mhm.
asthma, like allergies, all of these things that are so common
Infections.
nowadays but aren't normal. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that is, in my mind, where I want my
Love
next
that.
focus to go.
I love that. It makes me think of another practitioner that I did a collab with, talked about um, she became a practitioner because she became who she wished she had in her
Yes,
journey. And that like, holy shit, resonated with me. Like, yeah, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that when that's your why, that is such a strong why. Like that drive, that passion is so much stronger and deeper when your why is like, I needed this person that I am today professionally.
yes,
And I just think that's beautiful. So I love to hear that from others. I think that's awesome. And yeah, adapting to being a family of four, that'll be
yes.
that'll be a fun transition.
I
I'm
am
excited
excited.
for you.
It'll be good. Ready for this baby to
Yeah.
come out.
I bet you are. Yeah. Has this pregnancy been similar to your other one or different or?
I would say similar and different all at the same time. It is definitely a challenge being pregnant with a toddler. Like,
Oh, for sure. For
I feel
sure. I
like that's what has made it the most different. It's like the first one, I could do my meditations and relax and sleep as much as I wanted. And
bet.
this one, yeah, you get up when your child wakes up, you got to take care of a toddler all day. I would say I feel more run down this time
Mhm.
around, but I think it's just because I have another child at home to take care of and
For sure.
um, don't get as much rest as I did the first time around. But
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
fortunate. Most things have been similar. So,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great to hear that. Awesome. All right. Well, I end all of my collabs with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What is a book that you're currently reading, if you are reading one?
I am reading, it says fuck the how, excuse my language.
That's all good. That's the
But
name.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
I'm
all about,
intrigued.
yeah, like manifesting the life you want and not focusing on like, oh, this is exactly how I want to get it, but like the end result of what you want. And
Oh my gosh, I have to
yeah,
add
and
that to
even
my
applying
list.
that to just like my birth and the type of birth I want to have. So, yeah,
That's amazing. That's a book I need to add to my list then. I have two other like manifestation books on my Amazon wish list, and I'm gonna bump those. This one sounds
yes,
way more intriguing. What's one thing you can't live without besides your phone?
my pregnancy pillow right now. This time in my life, that is it.
I love it. That's a good one. I really love that answer. What's your current go-to podcast?
The Spillover. I think by Alex. Is it Alex or Alexa Clark or Alex Clark Hall?
Alex.
I don't know. That
I
yeah,
just
The
added it.
Spillover. Yeah,
The spillover.
it's
Yeah.
been. She's got a lot of great episodes. Very good.
Yes. I only listened to I didn't listen to a full episode yet, but I just added that. That's so funny that you shared that. Yeah, I do like that podcast, but I need to actually give a full
Yes,
episode a listen. What
there's a
is
lot of
one
good ones.
song that you have to sing along to whenever it comes on?
Oh, that's a good question. I
It's
feel
probably a
like
toddler
right,
song right now.
Baby Shark. That's all my
Yes.
daughter wants to listen to. Except my daughter doesn't like my singing. Every time I start singing, she tells me, "Mom, stop singing." So
No way. That's
there's
cute.
that. I'm like,
Baby
yeah,
shark. I
I didn't
love
think I was a good singer to begin with, but you're not helping my confidence. So,
it. That's awesome. I love that. All right. Last one. What's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
my favorite way to relax. Honestly, I enjoy laying in my bed with my red light and reading a book
Ooh, red
without
light.
my
Love
toddler in my bed
it.
undisturbed.
I love that. I've been debating getting a red light for myself.
I
That's cool
have,
that
I
you
think
use
it's the
that.
Loom box. Yeah, I love it. I used to
Yes.
have like a lot of neck issues. So I've been using it on my like neck and shoulders, especially since I've been pregnant. And knock on wood, I've not had any pain since I've been like consistent with it. So I ordered right from the website, but I don't know
Oh,
if you can get it. It's yeah, Loom box. I
huh.
feel like they
I've
run
heard.
specials every so often.
Yeah.
Recommend it.
Okay.
Love it.
Good to know. I might have to put that link in there because that's good to know. Awesome. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for coming on today. Before we completely conclude, can you share how people can find you? Like whether it be website, social media, you name it.
Yeah, so I have a website. It's andreapittsihp.com. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram. So andreapitts.ihp. I would say those are the two best places. I do have a Facebook too, but my website and then Instagram would be the best two spots.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I will link those in the notes so everybody can get in touch with you if they have questions or if they want to work with you. But full transparency, I mean, obviously she's about to have a baby. Actually, when this airs, she will be a mom of two. I mean, it's probably
Fingers
going to be
crossed.
July or the end of June. So,
Fingers crossed. I went
yeah.
over with
Yep.
my first daughter, so
Okay.
not
Well,
getting
we'll
my
see.
hopes up. But yes.
But give her some grace because chances are she's going to be bonding with baby during that time. So don't expect a response immediately because hopefully she will not be checking emails during that time or DMs or whatever it is. So Andrea, I really appreciate you making time for this, especially in your last month of pregnancy. Wow.
No, this was good. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yes, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so excited to share this with listeners. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, until next time, have a great week. Thank you so much for listening to us. It means so much to me. If there were any aha moments or anything that really resonated with you on today's episode, then please take a minute and share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you. Also, if you could, please rate and review the podcast as it is new, and that really helps to get the word out there more and reach even more listeners. I'll catch you on the next episode.